Well, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of the Neutral Zone Unmasked. Before we get started, it occurred to me, nobody mentioned this to me, but it occurred to me that I never introduced the people who are behind the scenes. So I just want to take a second and do that because I am inept and I can't do this on my own. So let me introduce up in the behind the neutral zone or in front of the neutral zone logo, that's Larry Fleming.
Hello, everyone.
And then in his home-based office is Dan Scanlon.
Hello, everyone.
And then hiding behind the neutral zone logo is Ashley Armstrong, and she's really the brains of the operation. And she doesn't like to talk.
I told you I'm staying silent Bob tonight.
All right. And I am Ray Tessie because I never introduced myself either. But we do want to get started. We have a lot of information to put your way, a lot of things to talk about. So let me do the following. We are happy to welcome tonight Ryan T. Husk. And you'll probably know him from his work as an actor, from films that he's been in. He's all online. He's completely online, doing blogs and all kinds of things. So what we'd like to do first, before we introduce him, is play his sci-fi video. And I think, yeah, and that is Ryan, by the way.
Emergency bulkheads disabled. Torpedoes, full spread. Evasive pattern Epsilon. All hands. Abandoned ship. That includes all of you too. I got it from you.
Escape pods beginning to launch.
That includes you as well. Abandoned ship. It's an order. Did you expect anything different, sir? No! Protocol must be kept at all costs!
Oh, come on, man. You've got room for 4 people in there.
I'm closing the door. Maybe we should make an exception. I would advise against it, sir.
Get out of my way, Domer!
Closing the hatch.
No! Wait! Shit!
Well, hell's bells. Let's on the nose it then, shall we? You know that guy that you look at in the mirror? The guy that runs you down? The guy that tells you that you cannot write? Le voilà. You're not real. Real enough to point out that you're no Hemingway, or Chandler, or Fitzgerald. You can't pop a cherry more than once. You know, a line like that could really spruce this shit up, huh? There's something different about you. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Well, gather round, everybody. Elliot's not afraid of me anymore.
This is Admiral Varric. Turn over the fugitive, and the Romulan Star Empire may consider showing you leniency.
Doesn't exactly sound like a generous offer.
The fugitive returns with me or dies on your ship.
I don't particularly care which.
Go to hell.
Captain, there's a priority call for you on comm channel 6 from Helios.
Atmospheric integrity?
Seems to be tight. Airlocks are secure.
Hail them.
No response.
Again.
And yet here I sit, a willing sheep, with only 10 minutes before launch call on yet another sortie, where I am bound and obligated to have no liberty, put my own existence on the line. In fact, to serve them, this prison, this life.
Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. So we apologize for that. We had technical difficulties last week. I guess those gremlins are still here. But
I kind of liked it better without the sound. It was like
You couldn't even tell if there was good lines or not, maybe, who knows? Maybe they were good, maybe they were bad.
Silent movie.
You got to assume they were good.
That's exactly right. But let me introduce Ryan. Ryan is an actor, a writer, director, producer, and he spearheads the podcast, The Seventh Rule and Falling Tower. And he is also the con director of Virtual TrekCon. So all in all, this is a very busy man, but welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much. I feel welcome. And I feel like everything that you said about me just pretty much said, he's a big nerd. Basically in a nutshell, he's a big sci-fi nerd, which I am.
Well, you're a very well-spoken sci-fi nerd, let me say that. So maybe what we could do, Ryan, is just maybe start with your backstory a bit. You're credited with being a producer, a co-producer, or an actor in like 50 or 60 different productions. So my question is, how and when did you start?
Well, I never planned on being an actor or producer, having anything to do with this business. I actually moved to LA as a musician, and I was taking classes at the local community college to improve my craft. And my music business class got canceled. So a lady in my singing class said, "Hey, why don't you come sit in on my theater class?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not, that's weird, And she was like, "No, you could just sit in and watch. You can just hang out because you got a class after that. You can just hang out." She's like, "It's fun. We just screw around. No big deal." So she was, stronger willed than I was. So I ended up going, and obviously the teacher was very aggressive with me, and she said that I wasn't allowed to just watch. I had to participate, and I was cornered. And then I did end up participating in like an improv thing, and it was fun and relatively easy. It's pretty easy when you don't have any pressure on yourself. Obviously it gets a lot harder later on, but that's how it started. It was a lot of fun. And so I came back the next week, and I ended up adding the class and then taking it forward from there. So that's how I kind of fell into acting, or got pulled into it. And then from there, that kind of spread its wings into writing and producing, which I also fell into unplanned.
It's interesting. It's amazing how we sometimes kind of go around and then fall into the thing that's going to carry us through life. So having said all that, do you prefer acting, producing, or both?
I hate, as soon as I was going to say this answer, I already hate it, because it's true, but I'm sure this is the worst answer you could give, but they're all cool in a different way. I like them all, and acting can be just so much fun if you are a cool alien, or a crazy serial killer, or the wacky neighbor like Kramer, or, or just, you can have so much fun with certain roles. But it's not always fun. In fact, it's almost never fun. The life of an actor is a terrible life in general. Producing is cool because it's in a strange way, you're just kind of making other people's dreams come true. You're making people's lives better. You're giving an actor their first big break, and there's something very fulfilling about that. It's really cool. Something I never planned on doing or had any skills for, but it's a very fulfilling thing when you can, cast an actor or create jobs for 100 people. I mean, that in and of itself is a really cool thing. When you look back at it, you realize I just created work for 100 struggling actors, or grips, or camera people, or all these people that have worked on their craft for 10 years and have wanted to do this their entire lives, and they're just looking for jobs, so that's really cool. Personally, I think the most fulfilling, though, is writing, at least creatively, because for me, that's the one that doesn't necessarily have any rules. You're not reading somebody else's script. You're not sitting behind, a computer trying to work out budgets or whatever. you're just letting your creativity throw up onto a piece of paper or onto a screen. And that's really, really cool, but that also has the least immediate rewards, because you basically work for days and months and years to maybe have a final product eventually. But it's the most fun.
Just a question based on that, based on my own experience. When you're, let's say you've written a script, a story, and you're in the process of actually filming, maybe even at the table read, do you welcome comments by some of the other actors on how something should be said, or from the other crew members on how something should be filmed or camera positioned?
I welcome compliments. No, so you're saying if I've written the script, do I welcome comments or notes from actors?
Yeah,
Sure.
basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's like with anything else, I would assume that you'll always welcome ideas from other people, and then you decide if you want to incorporate them or not. The only time it's difficult to decide if you want to welcome these things is if you don't have the power to make that final decision. If you have the power to make the final decision, of course you want 1,000 ideas and comments coming your way so that you can pick and choose which ones are the best ones. It's only nerve-wracking if you don't have the final say, I think.
I get it. I appreciate that. I get it. So I know that you've been in a number of fan films, including Star Trek Continues and Space Command and Star Trek Horizon, Renegades, lots of other stuff, The Fifth Passenger, Blade of Honor. And you've also done some episodic movies and television, like the 2009 Star Trek movie and Into Darkness. And I saw that you had done The Young and Restless and General Hospital, which takes me back a long way. But the question is, to you is, what do you think is the difference, or what did you find is the difference between fan films, movies, and television, and maybe which do you prefer?
Well, first I like to delineate between like Star Trek fan films and independent sci-fi productions. Like a fan film is something that's based off of Star Trek, basically. It's, you know, it's a bunch of fans putting together their version of something within the Star Trek universe. And an independent sci-fi production is not in the world of Star Trek. It's its own universe. It's created by its own, you know, it's got its own creator. So there's a big difference between those, I would say. But to answer your question, in a lot of things, you're either a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond, right? And so in these big productions, I'm usually like a little fish in those big ponds because 99.9% of people are. There's only that tiny, tiny percentage of people that actually are that big fish. So what's cool about those is the actual production itself. Like, yeah, a small role in 2 Star Trek movies, not really worth anything. But, you know, I was in a couple Star Trek movies and I actually got to walk on the bridge of the Enterprise. You know, I sat there and stood there next to J.J. Abrams and Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, as for some reason they all converged and made it seem like the 4 of us were having a meeting when I just happened to be the one standing in the way. You know, so a lot of really fun things. I also thought G.I. Joe was a ton of fun because as a kid I loved G.I. Joe, so I didn't care that the role was small. I was playing at G.I. Joe base all day. That was awesome. I loved doing a bunch of comedic acting skits for the Conan O'Brien show. That was a lot of fun. That was something this is all stuff that I never thought I would do because I never planned on being an actor. So I never had any aspirations to do this. It was all just this cool thing. Suddenly I'm on G.I. Joe base, or suddenly I'm on the Enterprise. So that's what those are almost always. They're cool gigs, but nothing major to write home about career-wise. Now, the independent things and or fan films, the fan films are more fun because you're playing Star Trek, and that's awesome. But they're all cool because you have generally a bigger role or a more important role, or maybe you're a producer, so you have more of a say in the vision of how it turns out, or maybe you've got a lead role as an actor. But definitely the feel is very different. It's got that family feel, whereas the basic productions, the Paramount or whatever, it's business. It's work. You show up, sometimes you get laughs, sometimes you're just at work. Whereas the independent things, you're coming to work, you're having fun, everybody's just like, oh my God, this is so cool, I'm so excited, but everything's heightened. Also, since it's not a multi-billion-dollar thing, everybody's wearing a lot of different hats. So a lot of times there's more pressure, there's more stress. Sometimes you don't get the pick of the litter in certain crew people that money could afford to get you normally. So there are really a lot of differences, but they're both a lot of fun in different ways, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And thank you for being, sharing your honesty about it. And just from my own experience and the folks who are on with us, I think we couldn't, well, I've never been in a big production, but I could understand it, and I'm sure we all agree with you. Larry has, but we'll talk about that some other time. So just getting away from movies and such, you also have a YouTube channel, more than one YouTube channel, but you do have a YouTube channel of shorts called Falling Tower Comedy.
Yeah.
And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Well, Falling Tower, we're actually celebrating 20 years right now, which is insane. We started off as a band. We were just playing crazy music in our garage and playing shows up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And then when the other main band member moved down to LA after me later on, we got the band back together. We kind of started playing some songs, having some fun, doing some things. And then we kind of started recording little skits and having fun. And we started putting things up on YouTube a long, long time ago when YouTube was still a baby. And so many times over the course of however long it's been, YouTube would go through changes. And then they would wipe out half of our videos, or they'd wipe out 5 of our videos because it had, third-party music back in the day. Nowadays, if you have third-party music, they just demonetize you, or they give the monetization to the person that owns the music. But back then, what they did was they just took your video down. They're like, oh yeah, I know you just spent 2 months making this thing, but that sound effect of Superman for 2 seconds when some guy walked in is licensed by somebody by the name of John Williams. You might have heard of him. And so they just take the whole video down. And anyway, so there was a lot of that. And so we would kind of be like, YouTube, I just censored myself. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. And then we'd come back to it a couple of years later. And that happened like 3 or 4 different waves. But eventually, like with everything, theoretically and hopefully, it ends up doing well. And so now we're up to over 700,000 subscribers. So that's kind of the biggest one. I've also had a few other YouTube channels in the past, but none of them made it that big. It's kind of like with everything else. You put a lot of projects forward, and hopefully one of them does well. And that's going to be, well, I guess we could talk about that later, but that's one of the 2 channels that we use when we do virtual TrekCon. We have the videos shown on that one and on the 7th Rule.
Right, exactly. And I just want to mention, actually, let me just go off story here. If you folks who are watching have any questions for Ryan, please put them into Facebook, and we will certainly read them as time permits. And I was going to start by saying, I was a part of the last virtual TrekCon, and I thought it was very fascinating how you ran it, controlled it. It's where I became more in tune with your different productions.
Thank you. By the way, here's what we got for hitting 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. However long ago that was.
Wow.
That's all you get, a plaque.
Well, it's okay.
Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
At least they didn't take you down.
Yeah, no, not this time.
But I was going to stay with YouTube for a second, and you just mentioned the seventh rule.
Sure.
And you hosted, or you co-hosted, I guess, with currently Cyric Lofton, who is from DS9. And until his passing a year ago, Aaron Eisenberg was also involved. And you've since renamed it the seventh rule, Captain Nog Forever.
Well, that's one of the playlists or shows, but it's still the seventh rule. So it kind of has branched out. You know, we have like the regular show that we do where we review Deep Space Nine episodes. And then we also have like a second thing called, the CNFs, we call them Captain Nog Forever, where we do interviews because he was always so interested in other people and talking with other people, as are we. So we just thought this was a perfect way to continue to incorporate him in everything we do. He really is infused in the show in every single aspect. And there's not one episode that we record where we don't say something like, Aaron would have loved this, or Aaron would have made fun of you for that dumb joke, or, I can hear him laughing now, and I don't exactly know where your question was going, but if I may, one of the things about Aaron was his laugh. And he had such a strong personality, which I found to be a real asset to us. He would call me every day, okay, what do you want to do about this? What do we, we're always planning and scheming. And he was very clear in what he felt and what he wanted and what he liked. So what that does moving forward now that he's gone is that eliminates the guesswork. We know exactly what Aaron wanted, what he would have wanted, what he would not have liked, because he told us many times before. So it's such a luxury a year later for us to still know exactly how he would have felt about certain things, because he was very clear about it. So when we talk, it's like he's still part of that conversation with us, because we know what his opinion is on certain things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I can hear in your voice that you obviously were close, and I understand about close friends passing. So first, my sympathy to you and to Melissa. I never had a chance to say that to you or her publicly, but I did see the I guess you would call it a tribute that you did this past Monday, and it was very touching. It was just very touching. So I compliment you on, maybe all of you, for getting through an hour plus of just telling your memories and your stories.
Yeah, thank you. Melissa is a real superhero. She's so strong, like, for me, I feel like in order to protect myself, I would try to be stoic, you try to kind of push the pain away. Whereas she's strong enough to just say, okay, let the pain pass through, and she deals with it. She lives it and breathes it, and she still comes out with positivity. And, she's like a statue of strength, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really chip away at her. And so when I talked to her a few days back saying, hey, what do you think about if we do this live thing? And, you don't have to join in, and if you don't want us to do it, no big deal. we won't. And, you know, she just said, I think I'd like to do it. Maybe I'll change my mind the day of, we'll see. And of course, she shows up and she's still smiling and laughing and telling us great stories and being such, you know, a beacon of joy and strength. And so I think that, you know, she gets a lot of kudos, and I still don't think she gets enough. You know, it's pretty impressive how she can go about life not being outwardly bitter or not bringing other people down, because it must be hard not to, you know, it must be hard not to just kind of be a downer, which would be okay. If you want to be a downer, you're allowed to. We all grieve in different ways. But anyway, so she's been amazing. And Sirach, if I may say, you know, a minute on him as well. Aaron was kind of the glue that brought us together. Like, I already knew Sirach a few years back. I think we met at the Renegades premiere, in fact. And I love old, like, history things, and he loves old history things. And so he mentioned something about ancient Ethiopia. And so we got like this and just kept talking about it. But then when Aaron mentioned bringing Sirach in, saying, hey, I want to do this podcast, and what do you think of Sirach? And I was like, that's a brilliant idea. And he said, Sirach says he wants to do it. So then fast forward, it was a perfect, you know, thing, because obviously Sirach and Aaron are good friends. I was good friends with Aaron. I was friends with Sirach. We got along great. And now with Aaron gone, we kind of wondered, is this still going to work without Aaron? Now it's just the two of us, you know. There was also a fellow by the name of Jared Cooper who was producing for us, but he was long gone as well. And now it's just the two of us. And, you know, Aaron being the genius that he is, it did work great with just the two of us even, you know. And Sirach is such a great guy to work with. We're just like on the same vibe, you know. He gets most of my dumb jokes. He gets most of my cheesy, you know, music references, and we both love basketball. It's just such a good match, and he always brings a good vibe. He's always very good natured. He's a great conversationalist. He's friendly. He's positive. You know, I really can't say enough great things about Sirach, about Melissa, about Aaron, but I'll keep trying.
Well, that's, again, very heartfelt. I've never met Melissa, but I did follow her after Aaron's passing, and I think she handled her situation with style and grace. And I could just see it even a year later that she's still that same person. So kudos to her and all of you for remaining as close as you have. So just a question. So the podcast is called The Seventh Rule.
Right.
And the seventh rule was one of the Ferengi rules of acquisition. I don't want to guess on how that came about. So I'm going to ask you how that came about.
Yeah, we got it on a fortune cookie, actually. I've got the paper here. No, it was Aaron. It was 100% Aaron. And it might have been the same conversation. It was as when he said, hey, what do you think of Sirach? Sirach says he wants to do it. He was just like, had the idea. He said, what do you think about the seventh rule? The seventh rule of acquisition being keep your ears open. And we were originally just going to be an audio podcast. That was his idea, was to do an audio podcast. So that's why he said, keep your ears open. And of course I was like, that's obviously brilliant. And my first thought is always the logistics. So I started Googling everything, you know, nothing on Google, nothing on Facebook, nothing on Twitter. I'm like, okay, it's clear. Let's take it because it's brilliant. It's a perfect idea. So that's 100% Aaron bringing that to the table.
That's very cool. I think I might have guessed that, but
right.
Good to hear it from you.
He's got the lobes for it.
He sure does. He sure did. Yeah, absolutely. So you talked a little bit or very briefly earlier about virtual TrekCon. And you have another one coming up. Really, I almost think on the heels of the one you did, which is
Right.
very ambitious. So I'm just curious how you came up with the idea. Maybe a little bit about the guys who are producing it with you. I say guys, but I don't know who they are. And what do you foresee for the current one?
Well, initially, I can tell you how the idea came about. I woke up on May 1st, and it was in my head. And I don't know where it came from. I think I was just kind of thinking about Star Trek Las Vegas and how it was probably going to be canceled, and how, I'm going to miss it because I go every year, and I'm going to miss the people. And I wish there was a way that we can kind of, that's kind of how ideas work. You just kind of start rummaging through your head of things that you wish could happen and how you can make those things happen. And then I kind of bounced it around in my brain for like a month, honestly, because the first thing you got to do if you have a big idea, like one that's more than just a day or two or a week of work, but like a big undertaking, especially someone like me who's never done anything. I've got nothing to do with conventions. I have no plans to. The first thing I want to do is I want to troubleshoot the hell out of it. I want to be the biggest naysayer in the world and say, no, you can't do it because of this. You can't do it because of that, because you don't want to find that out 2 months down the line, So I start just beating the hell out of that idea to see if it survives and is worth actually putting that amount of time into. And then when it starts passing all of those tests, then I start talking to a few friends I trust. I trust, nerdy friends, Star Trek fans. And I say, what do you think of this? And can you think of any reasons why it would not work, or any potential pitfalls, or just hit me with all of them? And they do. And obviously, overwhelmingly, it was like, dude, go for it. You totally got to do this. This is so cool, And so finally gave it the green light, and we went for it. And it went really well. I mean, luckily, I know a lot of Star Trek actors from previous work and in other films and stuff. So that part was relatively easy. And we also wanted to do something. Really, the main focus was to help the vendors that make a living off of going to conventions. And for this year, all conventions are canceled and they're not making any money. And if that's their only, way of making money, or even their biggest, or one of their biggest, that's a huge hit. So I just kind of started thinking, how can we help these people? How can we help the fans to not be so depressed in this crappy year and missing all the conventions that are canceled? How do we help the vendors make some of the money back, or at least get some kind of traffic going or something? And how do we also help like charities? Like what can we do? I'm not great at knowing all the charities that are out there, but a lot of people are. And a lot of people say, hey, these are the charities I want to promote if I come on your show, or whatever like that. And with Falling Tower having over 700,000 subscribers, we've got a large reach. So it could actually help and make a difference. So I kind of just bundled all those things up together and got a few people around me. If we have time for a couple shout outs to those people, Sirach, obviously, because he's my partner in crime. Melissa, obviously, because whether she likes it or not, she's part of the family. That's it. It's like, that key is thrown away. It's locked and the key is thrown away. She's part of the family forever. Also my Falling Tower business partner, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg. So he helps with running the Falling Tower side of things. And Scott Baker, Jesus, that guy, he's like one-stop shopping. If you ever need anything done in the world of production or anything, he's the guy you call. And you all got to get yourself a Scott Baker in your life, because you're like, I need to film something. I'm going to call Scott. I need a website built. I'm going to call Scott. You know, I could use some graphics. Better call Scott, you know, like he's the guy. So he was really the most important cog in those formative weeks, because he put so much work to make it took it from like an idea into a real thing with an actual website and with graphics and all that stuff that's very important. And so, and countless others that we probably don't have time for. But going forward into this one, I wasn't planning on doing another one so soon. But you always have that little mouth in your ear that says, well, if you really want to help the vendors, waiting until February doesn't really help them very much. You know, you're not much of a philanthropist or a nice guy even if you're just going to, you know, not at least try to help them a little bit, and so on. So eventually we settled on saying, all right, let's do one at the middle or end of October, even though it's just 3 months after the first one. But that was the reasoning for why we did it so much sooner, is because if that really is our mission statement, we got to stand by it, you know?
Well, that's very, I don't know if the right word is democratic of you, but certainly doing it because, you know, it helps other people is certainly admirable, if I could say that.
Mostly I'm just scared of feeling guilty. That's my biggest motivator, is I don't want to feel guilty about something. I don't want to like go a few months later and be like, God, I'm such a jerk. Why didn't I just try harder? You know what I mean? So that's my biggest motivator.
Well, it was interesting to me because I had found out about it, oh, it couldn't have been more than a month before the event took place. And I said, honestly, I said, is he crazy? He's doing this over 6 days. And he's got, you know, like all kinds of time to fill. And doggone it, you filled it. You got some really heavy hitters and, you know, brought them all, you know, to the screen, if you will. And really it was coordinated, I thought, brilliantly for what I thought was the time. I'm sure you did a lot of other work, you know, in the background before you announced it. But I thought it was brilliant.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, I attribute that to two things. Number one is that with coronavirus kind of jumping in and taking everything over, production stopped in LA. So all of my office jobs stopped, all of my production jobs, all of my acting gigs. Like I got nothing going on, you know, basically. I still had some online work and YouTubing and stuff like that. But with that, suddenly a lot of us suddenly have more free time on our hands. On top of that, I also got into a pretty bad car accident a few months back. And I had like a lot of big injuries and not much mobility. But so I wouldn't have been able to do those jobs anyway. So it happened to be perfect timing because right when I couldn't do any physical jobs, also all physical jobs closed down. So it was kind of this perfect storm of a situation to where I'm like, okay, well, I've got to just sit in my chair in my room anyway for the next few months. I might as well just do something that is just me sitting in my chair and typing on my computer. So I did, you know, that was the timing of it was right. But the other thing is the actual Star Trek community itself, as you know, is an extremely supportive and excitable fan base. You know, they're loving, they're supportive, they're friendly, they're excited, they want to do stuff, you know, they're motivated by doing cool, fun Star Trek stuff. And so there's always going to be people that want to join in on something fun. That's how I fell into fan films. I volunteered to work on, you know, Star Trek Renegades for the duration for free for 2.5 weeks. I took time off from my job as a lowly waiter, and by the way, I say lowly, I don't mean lowly because it's a very difficult job and I appreciate the people that do it. I just hated it. And I took 2.5 weeks off. I couldn't really afford to do it, but I did it anyway because it seemed like such a fun and exciting thing, and I wanted to be part of something cool and fun and Star Trek related. And I think that's kind of how everybody feels when it comes to these kinds of things. So that Star Trek community was very supportive of virtual TrekCon. You know, people say, hey, how can I help? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You know, we're all working for free. We're literally working for free. I worked on it for 2.5 months, pretty much 16 hours a day, and that's it, you know. But that's what a lot of people are willing to do when they love and believe in something, and the Star Trek community does. And so people like you, Ray, you said the same thing. You said, hey, I want to be a part of this. Whatever it is, whenever it is, you know, I just want to be a part of this. It sounds fun. It sounds exciting. I want to put in my own creativity into something and add it to something else. I mean, it's a really cool thing. And we all know we're extremely fortunate to be a part of this community, but it still bears repeating that we are extremely fortunate, right?
You know, without a doubt. Just one of the things that I say to people when they ask me about the studio is, if someone had told 12-year-old Ray Tessie that one day he'd own the Enterprise, I'd say you were crazy. So I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I do that. I play that game with myself all the time too. I'm like, if 12-year-old me or if 7-year-old me watching G.I. Joe would have been told that he was going to be a G.I. Joe, or if, you know, 17-year-old me were told he was going to be a Starfleet officer, you know, we would have said that's insane. And then sometimes we just are lucky enough to just keep, you know, we're adults out there playing. You know, we're playing and it's fun and we're lucky for it.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So just let us know a little bit about the one that's coming up. I think it's right in the middle of October.
Right. So this one, let's see, what can I tell you? Well, this one, not to beat a dead horse, but the biggest change is going to be with the vendor's room. We're expanding that to be kind of like its own pocket of time every day. Just like if you go to a convention, or let's say like you go to Star Trek Las Vegas, which is my favorite place in the world. You hang out with your friends, you see some panels, and you go into the vendor's room sometimes. You know, you spend 5 minutes in there or an hour or two, and then you come back out. So we're doing that every day, and they're going to be virtual vendors rooms on Zoom. So if you want to see, say, Johnny's Star Trek shirts, you know, you look at the list of people that are at that time, and you click on their Zoom link. You click on Johnny's Starship, whatever. You click on it, and then you're in a Zoom meeting with Johnny, and Johnny says, okay, so my website is this, you know, here's, and you say, can you make custom shirts? Can you do this? Can you? And then he shows you, he's like, oh, I got this. And so it's just like you're visiting their table, except that you're not coughing on each other and you're not actually exchanging money physically, but then he could just direct you right to his website. You make the purchase, and, you know, it works for clubs. You know, like if you're just a fan club and you're not selling anything, they just come and say, what are you guys about? And say, well, we promote this. Oh, that sounds cool. Here's my website. So it will be just like a virtual vendor's room. And that's going to be our biggest expansion, is really moving that up. And we're going to have it at different times every day, because there are different time zones in this world. And we love catering to the international audience, because the people in Australia can't see anything that we have in the morning or at noon. They're only watching us starting at 3 p.m. basically. And the people in Europe, all they can watch is the morning and the early afternoon. After 3 p.m., they're done. So, you know, we want to have like a vendor's room block at 9 a.m. and then another one at 5 p.m. and another one at 1 p.m. Things like that. So that's going to be our biggest change. This is the time where I have to give a shout out to Dr. Mohammed Noor, who is the Dean of Life Sciences at Duke University. He's also a consultant for a franchise called Star Trek. He's a science consultant, and he has offered to take the brunt of the work of organizing and managing all the vendors for the vendors room, because it's quite a task. And that was extremely welcome. I welcomed that suggestion with open arms, and he's been great so far. So big, huge shout out to Mohammed for making that happen. Otherwise it would have been, very difficult, but he's handling that. And of course, we're calling it the Promenade because there's really no other thing to call it. That's the perfect idea for it. And I believe that was from Homer Frizzell, one of our associate producers. So Mohammed's title is the Promenade Coordinator, I believe. He suggested Odo. I was like, I don't know if that's the coordinator. That's more like the security, maybe Quark, I don't know. But that's the biggest change. It'll have tons of videos, tons of events, panels and interviews. We're going to have, game night kind of things, which are always fun live. We do have Tom Supernant, who won multiple trophies. What are those called? Emmy Awards? Sorry, I'm pretty sleepy today. Emmy Awards for makeup effects, working on Deep Space Nine and such, making Klingons and whatever. And last time he turned our good friend, Mr. Rico E. Anderson, into a Klingon, and he looked better than I could have ever imagined. It was awesome. And now this time he's going to do makeup on Tracy Coco, who played Lieutenant J in Next Generation, and she was like a dozen different aliens on different series of Star Trek. And so they've worked together before. Obviously, he used to do makeup on her, so he's going to do that again. And I'm really looking forward to that one. The only negative aspect of that is that I had to tell Rico, sorry, not this time, because he wanted to do it again so bad. It was really cool. That's one I'm really looking forward to.
And he does the makeup effects live on screen?
Right. Well, not live, because that could last maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we want to try to keep it to an hour, hour and 15, and just in case there's dead air. So what we do is we get a fellow by the name of Scott Baker, again, and he drives out to the Inland Empire, which is like an hour east of LA where Tom is, and he records it, he films it, and then if there's anything to cut out or some dead air or anything like that, he chops it up. Last time I think they recorded for like an hour and a half, hour and 40, and he chopped it down to like 1:15. And, that way it was perfect. And so Tom is also telling stories from his time on Star Trek as he's putting on the makeup. So it's not only a makeup tutorial, but it's also a behind the scenes story time with Tom Supernant. So we're hoping for that again this time.
Cool, very cool. So just let everybody know, what are the dates? How do they find you?
Okay, so that's October 15th through 19th. We decided to whittle it all the way down to 5 days instead of 6. And it is, you can find us on virtualtrekcon.com or, Facebook, Virtual TrekCon, Twitter, Instagram, everything's Virtual TrekCon. You can email us if you have a submission idea for a panel or for an event that you might like to suggest. Just do vtcsubmissions@gmail.com, Virtual TrekCon, vtcsubmissions@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to contact us, but you can find us anywhere.
Well, that's great. Really, that's great. I had a blast when I did it. I'm hoping that I have another blast.
Me too.
So that's great, and certainly good luck on that. I think we do have a couple of questions that some of the viewers have written in. One was, do you have any funny stories of you on set? And it says any set.
Like every set, honestly. Two of them just came to mind. One was on the set where you're sitting right now, Ray. I was a security officer in the Mirror Universe for episode 3 of Star Trek Continues. And Vic and I would have kind of a pretend rivalry of pretty boys or something like that. And he was supposed to come out and say, "Where is Spock?" or something. And I say, "I don't know," something like that. But he came out, and instead of doing that, he just said, "You're a handsome man." And then he punches me in the stomach. He does like this Kirk Fu on me, or I said, "I'm sorry, sir," or something. I don't know. It was hilarious. I guess you had to be there. It doesn't sound hilarious, but it is in the outtakes, I'm sure, somewhere. I've seen it on video. It was funny. It was a good time. Another one was on the subject of Rico Anderson, one of my best pals, and also a great actor, by the way. I cast him in almost everything that I can. He's awesome. But one time we were cast in like a college film, a student film, and this guy was a friend of another friend of ours, and he was saying, I really want to cast you guys, and we're like, I can't do a college, no, but he really wanted to, and our friend really wanted us to, and then Rico and I were like, well, it'd be fun to kind of do something together, so we both were like, well, I'll do it if you do it, I guess. And if it works with my schedule, if it's really quick, I'll do it. We're both playing like the Hollywood thing of like, oh boy, this is so beneath me, right? And then we show up to the thing. We're like two cops, right? We're two tough police officers, right? We always get our men or whatever. And we're about to shoot our first scene, and we're in the kitchen, and we're looking at this bloodbath that just happened. We're coming in like detectives or whatever. And we're about to deliver our first line, and we look at each other and we just start laughing like 7-year-old kids, just like idiots, like the two professional guys that are so above this thing, and we couldn't get our shit together. And we just started laughing. Like we're like, okay, we're about to start, and we both about to do our line. We go, and we just lose it. Like we're the least professional people ever. And it got so bad that we actually couldn't look at each other. We would pretend to look at each other, but look at something else in the eye line, because we couldn't. It was like two people that can't stop laughing in the back of the class or at the dinner table. It was ridiculous, but it was fun. That was a good one.
That's cool. That's cool. It's going to lead me to another question, but we did get a question going back to virtual Trek Con from Bob Kenny. And I think this might be a little premature, but I'll ask it. Is VTC going to continue after COVID?
Boy. Obviously I don't know. I really don't know. I think so. I think that it's too fun and too interesting and too important, for lack of a better word, not to keep going. It would be, I feel like it would be a shame if it didn't. I would feel like it was a lost opportunity. Now, but the other side of that is there'll be less of a need for it after COVID. So there will be less of a need, that's for sure. But what we found was what people said about it afterwards when it was over. We got tons of positive messages of people saying how much they loved it and appreciated it, which was amazing. But not all of them, most of them weren't saying because of coronavirus. They were just saying, I've never been to a convention. I'm out here in Alaska, or I'm out here in the UK, and I've never been to Star Trek Las Vegas. I've never done this. This was my first convention. I'm so appreciative that you guys did this and made this so readily available and so well organized where we can go to all these things and follow everything we wanted to follow, and super easy to navigate. And so there'll be less of a need after COVID, but not no need. And it's just too fun not to do it. So I think we will probably continue on after this one. Yeah.
Well, it would be a shame if you didn't.
I know.
And honestly, as both a viewer and a participant of the last event, I think this is the new normal.
Yeah.
Even when conventions come back, I think this is the new normal. And I think you've kind of set a bit of a bar for the amount of events, the organization, the number of days, and really making it available from early in the morning to late at night. And it would really be a shame if that, for whatever reason, were to come to an end.
Right. Well, we were definitely the first, and certainly the only one so far to do several days in a row, like an actual convention, like an actual 6-day Star Trek Las Vegas big time convention, 13 hours a day. And Sirach, for one, was very pleased about being the first. He was like, we're the first. They can never take that from us. I was like, well, we need a Wikipedia page, don't we? Like he was adamant about, we're the first. Doesn't matter what anybody else does after this. But it doesn't look like anybody's doing this kind of large scale convention yet. People like to do like a 1-day thing or a half-day thing. But yeah, I agree. It would be a shame to just say like, it was a one-time thing or 1-year thing. I do think it is the new normal too.
Yeah, it's certainly, like I said, has set a bar, and I think you all should be congratulated for rallying and doing it and getting the support you did from even your guests to your participants. So good luck with that going forward. Really,
thank you.
Really. So let me ask you, with everything you've talked about, all of these events, all of these productions you've been in, is there one that is most memorable to you?
Sorry, with regards to what? Just specifically with Virtual TrekCon, or just with everything?
No, for everything that you've done. Everything that you've done. What if there is one, what is the most memorable thing that you've done in your, I'll say, career or your lifetime? So could be in anything.
You know, I don't know. That's tough. My first concert with my first band was pretty cool. Definitely wasn't expecting that. Star Trek Las Vegas is not an accomplishment, but it is the coolest thing in the world that I love going to. It's kind of like, it's the 360 days in between is just that. It's just 360 days in between Star Trek Las Vegas. That's the way I look at it. It's kind of the only thing I do just for fun, just to go have fun. Everything else, there's, you know, a reason for it. I did really like working on Star Trek Renegades that first time, even though I was, you know, the bottom of the totem pole, last minute edition volunteer guy for 2.5 weeks. But that, and I'd never done anything with the crew before. I was always just an actor, but that set the ball rolling for what turned me into a producer. I would have never become a producer or done anything in crew or production if I had not done that first thing. And I think that's what happens with a lot of us, is that we just say, you know, I don't know exactly why, but I have to do this thing. I gotta own these stages, or I gotta volunteer for this project, or I gotta be a part of this thing. And then your friends or your family are like, yeah, dude, but why? Like, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any, that's stupid. Or, you know, like, and logically speaking, they're right. But hindsight on it, usually you are right, that it's good that you did it, and you know why. You know, I always say, like, you know, just say, we don't always know why, you know, but you have to just say yes when an opportunity arises. The why will reveal itself later. You'll know why it was good that you took that opportunity later. 2 years from now, you'll be able to look back and say, now I know why that was a good move. So that was one of those.
I think a lot of us in life have to just trust our spidey senses.
Right.
And just go with the flow. And that's kind of how I'm where I am right now as well. So I completely understand. So maybe to just ask you this question, what's next for you? You really, you're all over the place, which is great. But, you know, what do you have planned? What do you hope to plan in the future?
Well, first I want to get through Virtual TrekCon. I just want it to go through without a hitch. I'm going to knock on some wood here. We were very fortunate the first time that with enough planning and organization and nitpicking, we were able to get through without any major hitches. I'm hoping we can get through this one without anything completely falling apart. After that, there are some things I want to do to expand the Seventh Rule and Falling Tower and really kind of grow those things into something that's more of a career, because that kind of stuff, if you can make an actual career out of that, that travels. You can go to Hawaii and keep working. All you need is your computer and your phone. You can go anywhere you want. You can work the days you want. You can not work the days you don't want. You can be your own boss. That's a really cool thing if you can pull it off. So I'm working hard at that. I'd also like to do some writing. There's at least one novel that I owe myself to get to. So that would probably be in November. So those are probably the two big things that would be November and December of this year.
Well, that's certainly more admirable than sitting on a beach drinking tequila. That's for sure.
Sounds nice, though.
It does sound nice. Trust me. We all work our regular jobs. And I always say, when I live in Florida, and I say, well, if my office didn't have a window, I wouldn't have a tan. So I get it.
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you so much for being with us. I just maybe, and with so many different things going on, what's the best way that people can find you and follow you?
Well, I guess it depends on what it's regarding. You can just, go to the Seventh Rule Facebook page or the Falling Tower Facebook page or Twitter pages. If it's regarding one of those things, if it's regarding Virtual TrekCon, you can go to that social media, or you can email virtualtrekcon@gmail.com. If it's just to catch up with me or look me up, just Google my name, Ryan T. Husk, and you can find whatever you're looking for, whether it's IMDb or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Pretty easy. I mean, nowadays we've got so much technology, it does the work for us,
Well, I don't know if it does the work for us, but it's certainly a time saver. That's for sure. But I really want to thank you for being with us. I think this was very insightful. It was a pleasure to finally meet you, kind of face-to-face, but we are face-to-face.
This is the new face-to-face.
This is the new face-to-face.
No, but thank you very much, Ray. It's been great. You've been great to communicate with virtually in the past through our messaging. So it is nice to see you face-to-face as well. And Dan and Larry as well. And Ashley, boy, you are quite the chatterbox today, by the way.
Sorry. Usually I'm a little bit more alive, but...
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank you again. What we're going to do for you and if you will, for everyone who's tuned in. We'll have this up on YouTube.
Cool.
We'll have Ryan's reel with sound in that video, so look for that. And we'll just try to keep in touch, and maybe we can do this again. Maybe I can be a guest on the Seventh Rule. I would love it. That's my personal pitch, Ryan.
Sounds fun.
So again, thanks so much for you folks who are with us. hang on for just a few minutes. We have a couple of things that we'd like to let you know, but at this point, I just want to let Ryan sign off. I know he's got things to do, and hopefully we'll see you sometime soon.
Thanks very much, guys. It's been a pleasure.